So I want to address virulence and virulence factors, and this can be kind of a tricky concept for students to understand, so I want you to really focus in on this section. Okay, so where are we? I need to review some definitions. You know what a pathogen is. A pathogen is the microorganism that causes disease. No other words that are related to that. Pathogenicity. Pathogenicity is the ability of a microorganism to cause a disease. So in order to be classified as a pathogen, it has to be able to cause a disease. So pathogenicity of a microorganism, its ability to cause a disease. All right, so there's a difference between pathogenicity and the word virulence. Virulence means the relative ability for a pathogen to infect a host and cause a disease. So pathogen means it can cause a disease, but virulent means how is a term to describe how likely it is to cause a disease. If we come in contact with this microorganism, we know it's a pathogen, it's capable of causing us a disease, but how likely is it to cause us a disease? And that's what we use when we're talking about virulence. We can also talk about virulence factors. Virulence factors are characteristics or traits of that pathogen that allow it to get inside, enter, adhere to a host. We know it's got to adhere in order to stay inside. And then it needs to grow, gain access to nutrients, and it needs to defend itself, either escape detection or removal by the immune system. So the microorganisms that have virulence factors or characteristics allow them to get inside us and stay inside us and grow and potentially cause us a disease. Okay, all right, so virulence, the ability, the relative ability for that pathogen to infect a host and cause a disease. So let's look at some diseases. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Hi, how are you guys doing? All right, so let's look at some diseases. I'm still learning, guys. I appreciate you guys working with me through these videos. Okay, so let's look at a kind of a, a ranking of virulence. So remember, virulence is the relative ability of a microorganism to cause a disease. How likely are we to get it? Well, down here at the very bottom, the things that are less virulent are things that we already know that we carry, that are part of our normal microbiota, our normal microbiome. Candida albicans, this is yeast. We carry some yeast. In the female vaginal region, there will be some yeast. We may have some other things. Now, if that yeast overgrows, if conditions are right, this normal part of our microbiome can become an opportunistic pathogen. Remember that? If conditions are correct, it can overgrow and then exist in larger numbers than normal, and it can cause a disease like vaginitis or a thrush, a yeast infection. Lactobacillus, that is another microorganism that is normally found in the female vaginal regions, also found in other parts of our body as well. It's part of our normal microbiome. It actually is good, it protects us, it does some things that help us out. But in the right conditions, it can cause us a disease. But they're considered very less virulent because we can come in contact, we can even be infected and have a colony, but we're not likely to get the disease. Same thing with C. diff. That's another one that's big in the hospitals right now, in our healthcare facilities. Clostridium difficile. Most of us carry a little bit of C. diff already in our intestines, in our gut. But we can take care of it. Our body keeps it in check, keeps it in small numbers, and we don't have a problem. If it's allowed to overgrow, if you're being treated with a lot of other antimicrobials to deal with some other bacterial infections, it can overgrow and cause a diarrheal disease. All right, so these are things that are less virulent. Up here, we have things that are more virulent. If we come in contact with this particular microorganism, we are very likely to get the disease. Whooping cough, very contagious. For every one person that gets whooping cough, they can infect up to maybe 12 or more people. It is very contagious. If we come in contact with whooping cough, it is very likely we're going to get the disease. The plague, very contagious. Now there's another disease called rapid fever. You've probably heard of the plague. You've probably heard of whooping cough. Rabbit fever, you probably haven't heard of. It is very virulent, meaning if you come in contact with it, you are going to get this disease, rabbit fever. It's highly likely that you're going to get the disease. Problem is that the disease is you do get it from rabbits, but it's very mild. It's not a big deal if you get it. So even though it's virulent, it's not a severe disease. So just know that virulence is just has nothing to do with the severity of the disease, how bad a disease it is, how likely you are to have complications or even dying from the disease. It's just how likely are you to get it if you come in contact with it.